Hey developers, today I'm going to be sharing something that most people don't really like to share, which is their salary. Obviously, there's a little caveat to this because what I'm sharing is not my current salary, which is zero because I'm unemployed, but my salary when I landed my first software engineering job. In case you didn't know, I did attend a coding bootcamp school back in 2015 and was able to find my job about 3 to 4 months after I finished my course. I also want to mention that the coding bootcamp school I attended was the Flatiron School, and going on their website in 2021, the starting salary says it's around $69,000. I'm not really sure if that number is nationwide or specific to a city, but obviously depending on where you live, salaries are going to be pretty different. This is definitely lower than the numbers I found on websites specific to New York City, but at the same time, for New York City, it might include experienced developers and not just entry. Another thing I want to say is that I did attend the New York campus school and ultimately found a job in New York City. What's crazy about New York City, which I didn't know, is apparently they have a thing called a city tax. And yeah, that's a pretty rough one. If you didn't know my story, I used to live in Texas where they used to say y'all all the time. And I lived there for about 3 years. And in Texas, they don't have any state income tax. So imagine how surprised I was when I discovered that not only did I have to pay state tax and federal tax, but I also had to pay the city tax specific to New York City boroughs. Hey developers, if you are interested in content related to self-developer stories, coding bootcamps, and overall just breaking into the space, I highly recommend you to hit that like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. What's kind of weird in this new day and age regarding coding bootcamps, and I'm really not sure where this narrative came from, is that attending a coding bootcamp school will magically earn you $100,000 a year salary. This is far from the case. If someone was able to make that much coming out of a bootcamp, you know what? All kudos to them. Either they're really smart, really good at talking and negotiating, or they're good at doing both. A friend of mine named Bobby, who also has a YouTube channel called Coder Foundry, always says the best in terms of your salary. Don't think about your initial salary. It's about the road to 100K. I'm a huge believer of that mindset because I kind of lived it. It definitely wasn't easy with my first salary and a lot of adjustments had to be made. But at the same time, I knew it wasn't going to be my final salary as long as I keep working hard and become a better software developer. So without further ado, what was my first salary coming out of bootcamp? My first salary coming out of a bootcamp was $75,000 a year. $75,000 a year sounds like a lot, but if you do some calculations, and I did like a cost of living comparison between New York and Austin, Texas, apparently making $75,000 a year is the equivalent of making $30,000 a year in Austin. Wait, what? Why am I doing this to myself by living in New York City? I always talk to a lot of my friends and even YouTubers who kind of make fun of me saying that, why do you live in New York City? You live in a shoebox. You pay so much money in taxes. Your money isn't actually your money. All of these things are true, but I'm going to save that topic for another time. But yeah, $75,000 a year living in New York City. It's crazy to think that a salary in one area can be so different depending on where you live. I'm not going to say that I was poor or homeless. I was paying about $1,400 for a 2-bedroom apartment that I was sharing with someone else. So total was around $2,800, $2,900. But you know, at the same time, there was a lot of sucky things about that apartment. I didn't have natural sunlight in my room, and sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have hot water. It really sucked to be living like that, and in some ways, I really felt I was living paycheck to paycheck because I didn't really have a 401k or any retirement savings in mind. I was hired as a full stack developer at an agency, and the money was just enough for me to survive and feel comfortable. I mean, I really did have a roof over my head, so I can't complain from that point of view. It definitely wasn't ideal, and there were moments where I went to some dark places, no pun intended. I still remember having to go to the local gym to get a hot shower, or blasting my personal heater whenever the boiler was down. I don't know how a salary reveal video became a pity party for me, but I just want to emphasize that when I did first start, you have to keep working and you have to keep grinding on your first job. More than the money, I was grateful to be in a real position where I could work as a real software engineer. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I knew that I didn't want this to be the end. I knew that I had to keep grinding and working because from a financial perspective, it still really wasn't ideal for me. You can refer to my Why I Code Like I'm Broke video, but in some ways, not having hot water or making sacrifices living in the city, I was forced to keep going and trying to become that senior developer who could demand the pay that will make my life comfortable. Fast forward 5 years, and now I make I got you there, didn't I? Maybe one day that'll be something I'll share if I ever hit like 100,000 subscribers. But we'll see if that ever happens. But on a serious note, my first salary was truly a stepping stone to where I am now. It's very easy to feel slighted or say that you don't think you make enough money, but I've learned in this business, your skills will always justify your pay. So I'll admit that when I got hired, I was still pretty green. I was a rookie who really didn't know how to code at a production level scale, and in some ways, I might have been getting overpaid. But whatever companies are willing to take a risk on you, they do it because they see potential, and in some regards, they're kind of getting you at a discount if you can deliver. But this is the point though, the first salary is not your final salary, and in some ways, you need to treat your life like a business. If you don't like your pay, then do something about it. Don't rest on your laurels and just relax when you're finished working and things like that. Take a Udemy course on DevOps, front-end development, whatever you're interested in to level yourself up. While I was working my full-time job, I never stopped learning. I worked 8 hours a day, and then on my free time, I took a Udemy course on React before React was popular, did some front-end masters, anything that I could get my hands on to become a better developer so that in the future, I knew that I couldn't be denied if I asked for more money or if I negotiated with a company that was giving me an offer. Looking back, making $75,000 a year was an investment that not only the company made, but something I made on myself. I could have complained and said that I'm going to wait for $100,000, but realistically looking back, I have no idea who would really pay me that much based on the skills I actually had. To me, being able to be in an environment around experienced developers and learning from them was so invaluable. Getting paid to code and also learning on the side is probably the best thing that could have happened to me after finishing up my bootcamp. 6 years later, I'm obviously still a software developer and still living in New York City. I do have some sunlight in my new place and I have hot running water. But more importantly, I have space to be able to build content and share information with you guys. It's funny looking back and seeing what motivated me to become a better engineer, like your living situation and salary, but sometimes you need to be put in uncomfortable spots to really push you to your limits. Either way, I hope I shed some light, again, no pun intended, setting realistic expectations in your coding journey. I always preach this to my community that a software developer journey is not easy regardless of where you come from and where you work. It's one of those highly technical skills where if you keep leveling up yourself, the money will come and follow. For those of you that are looking or even starting your journey, I say keep building developers, your time will come. Tech Rally out.